All right. Instagram does not want to go live, but we're going to get this party started. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Pay Raise Playbook. I'm your host, Christy Rutherford. And today I have the amazing and phenomenal Jen Guidry. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me, Christy. Happy to
All
be
right. I'm
here.
going to read your right. I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a good time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I didn't send Jen any questions in advance because if I sent you questions, Jen, I'd be like, I'm going to make it up while I'm here. I mean, do you really want to know? So you're ready, right?
I'm ready.
Okay. Jen Guidry is known for her profound impact in the mortgage industry. She has cultivated an impressive career spanning over 28 years. You fine, girl, you fine. As one of the top 10 most empowering women in the mortgage globally, empowering women in mortgage globally, Jen's dedication to excellence and leadership is undeniable. Throughout her distinguished career, she has not only been a top producer, but has also mentored and coached thousands of sales professionals across the United States. Her expertise has helped shape the future of many managing teams and guiding professionals in achieving close to $2 billion in sales. She's a national speaker and international keynote speaker, and it has allowed her to share her wealth of knowledge and inspire audiences on larger platforms. She's been featured on CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox 29, WOAL. She has penned the national bestseller. I'm going to read not all of it, but all of it. Grit and Gratitude, and IBA and award winner, The Storm. Her books that dig into resilience and perseverance that's needed to succeed. In addition to her writing and speaking engagements, she actively contributes to Medium and has been interviewed on multiple national podcasts, including ours, sharing her journey and professional strategies that lead to success. Her career is a testament, and her expertise, influence, and commitment in empowering others in the mortgage industry and beyond. So we look forward to you sharing your insight with our audience today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm ready. Let's go.
Thank
Let's
you.
do this.
I have to throw all the flowers at your feet, like you're the queen of Zamunda. Like, this we're going to the what is the movie with Eddie Murphy? Coming to America. We throw
Coming
it
to
all the
America.
flowers at your feet. Throw it all the flowers at your feet. So, Jen, we're here to talk about how to live an elevated life despite your past trauma and how to regulate your nervous system. And so
Yes.
I met you a couple of months ago, and I was like, "This lady's bad ASS." Like, I love. Let's be clear. I all caps love bad ASS women, and you're one of them. But this is what I
Yeah.
know about a lot of high achieving bad ASS women. We've been through something, which
Oh,
is
yes, we have.
which is why we're strong. So I mean, you fine,
Yeah.
you look perfect, but you got some stuff that happened in the past. So what are your thoughts around, what drives high achieving women? What drives you? I want to start with that question.
Well, I can only talk to you from my own personal.
Mhm.
What drove me to success is when I finally figured out that I was smart. And that sounds so funny to say, like my childhood, um, I thought I was dumb until I got my first A. And it was in the fourth grade. Mrs. Brown was my teacher. And I remember getting that A and going, wait a second, like I'm I got an A. Like I'm not dumb. And then it was from that moment on that just it was I will say a lifetime of overachieving. But, due to the things that happened to me in my life. And that's what I think, we were talking a little bit, before the show about high achieving women and that people see this, right? People see you. But they don't see all of the things that you had to go through to get to where you are today. And a lot of us, we've been through some things and we don't talk about it enough, because we try to hide it because we think that if we were to tell someone what really happened to us, that it would take down the legitimacy of who we are because we carry the shame, right? And so I lived a whole childhood into my adulthood filled with shame, you know, chronic anxiety, stress, panic attacks, all these things that I hid But the truth was that all of my actions outside of work all came back to those maladaptive practices, all those things that I did or had. And it was when I learned how to regulate my nervous system that I was able to finally like I'm good. And it changed my life. And it's become a passion of mine, so much so that I gave up my career. I gave up a career that I was at the top of my game for 28 years. I put my butt back in school. I read I was trying to count how many books I read. I've read hundreds of books in the past year and a half, trying to figure out the answer to the question, what makes a person whole? Like, how do people with traumatic pasts, become at peace with themselves, to not have that burnout, the anxiety, like all that stuff that we have, right? How do you not have that despite the things that happen to you? And how do you still operate at a high level while doing it? And the answer smacked me on the side of the head one day because I finally learned it. Is I learned somatic experiencing and showing people how to feel. It's bottom up processing versus top down processing. So most of our decisions, they're made here, right? How we think. What does my head say? What does my head say? But when you start learning how to, and when you start paying attention to what your body is saying, and holding that feeling and acknowledging it, you take away the power of whatever is happening in your life. So, for example, go ahead.
Because you skipped. You
I know
did
I
like,
went all over the place. I'm just
if
like,
I'm on a pond and I throw the rock and it goes boop 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 boop. I'm gonna
all
let
right,
me
I'll
bring
go
it
back.
back 5 clicks.
Go ahead.
Uh,
Let's go.
no, because I want to get into that, right? Like it's a lot of women walk around with so much stuff you would never know. And nobody ever stops Jen to ask a superwoman, have you been through anything, girl? And will we trust that if we tell them they won't use it to weaponize our
It's hard.
weakness?
I know, and that's a struggle that we have. That is a huge struggle that we have, and that's why, honestly, for the most part, I kept my mouth shut,
Mhm,
like, the whole entire time. I'm like, "No one could possibly find out this about me,
mhm,
because then it would take away from all the different things that I did
mhm,
in my life."
mhm.
So yeah, that is a hugely valid point, and a lot of women, well, I would say men do it too.
Men do too. Yeah,
But it really messes you up. It
yeah,
messes you up, and there's so much freedom into finally just talking about it, being vulnerable, um, and letting it go. It's life
yeah.
changing.
What are your thoughts? I talk often, and I love these conversations. We had Laura on a couple of days ago. She was so good. Laura's
She's
bad.
amazing. Yes.
And so, a lot of us are driven by pain, and a
Mhm,
lot of our achievements aren't necessarily about passion. We think that is passion, but pain is
mhm.
at the root of what we're doing, because once you get it, because we could have been here all day reading your bio. I mean, I don't know that was a short one. And I even had to skip a couple of paragraphs because it's, I mean, I'm just saying, a lot
Yeah.
of the achievements, we just keep going and we get the next thing thinking that, oh, if I get this next thing, then I'll prove that I'm good enough. Or if I
Yeah.
go and now, once we get it, we're like, trash. And then because you have your eye on like the next thing. So now you're running towards the next goal, whatever it is. You could be an iconic global leader with 1,000 New York Times bestseller. And we're looking for like, well, what's past a New York Times bestseller? It's like,
It's
what's
it's
the
crazy.
what's the next thing? So what are your thoughts around, women who have had stuff in their past? What advice do you have for them on um, you know, whether or not it's okay to acknowledge what you've been through so then you can adjust and change it?
Well, having lived that lifestyle of next, next, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And, every goal that I accomplished, my soul was never satisfied because I didn't have peace in my heart. I did not know how to live in the present moment. Um, and, I was motivated by, like, what do we do when we get stressed out? Pain points, right? We go shopping, um, we drink too much, use drugs, all these different things to numb us, and then we try to overachieve because we think that's going to make us feel better. But the truth is that it doesn't. And until you are able to acknowledge, that pain that you do have, um, you won't be able to release it, and that's what I walk people through. And that's become, I mean, legitimately, my mission in life now has become to show other people how to regulate their nervous systems. And I integrate that in the coaching that I do, in all of the talks that I do, all the speeches that I do, because until you learn how to do that, you'll keep on going. You'll always be looking for things to, get you to that next level, make you happy, whatever, but they won't they don't. They don't.
So let's talk about regulating the nervous system because those are big
Mhm.
words, even though I'm a nerd and you're a nerd. But it sounds like it's a lot, but it's
It's
the
not.
somatic experience, somatic feeling. What is that exactly?
So, kinda what I was getting at before, before when I skipped the rocks before. Um, so somatic experiencing, in a nutshell, very high level, is becoming aware of what's going on in your body when things happen to you. And instead of thinking about them, you feel them. So, for example, anytime before, actually before this, I noticed my heart started racing before we came on. And that anxiety, right? Stress, I'm nervous about being on, just, but instead of going, "Oh my god, I'm nervous, I'm gonna be, oh, it's gonna be horrible, and, I hope I don't make a mistake." I said, "All right, I could feel you." I just paid attention to it. I put it in a little, just kind of breathed into it, and then 2 seconds completely stopped. I mean, I was just like, I felt it. I felt my body just went, "Huh, okay." And that's what I'm teaching people how to do, right? When we're motivated by pain, for example, we keep feeding into the story of the pain, looking for all these different ways to make it stop. But the truth is, it's about being and not doing. It's about being and not doing. It's about being good with what is right now and acknowledging it and paying attention to it and honoring it. And then once you do that, things dissipate. And it's the craziest thing. It sounds like it's the most, like, duh, right? I don't even know. It sounds so simple. It takes practice to do. And that's what I want to lead people through. Like, you don't have to suffer. You can heal.
Oh, I was just going two snaps in the back. I gave you three
Yeah.
snaps.
Yeah. You
So
don't you don't have to suffer. And I want to share that with as many people as possible because it's like you first have to have the hope to heal, right? And then with that, you have to have the belief that it can exist, right? Like, that there's something better out there with you, and you know that it doesn't have to be this way the whole time. Like, you don't have to live this way. I think it's where it starts, right? And then sometimes you need to sit in that belief. And our jobs as coaches and mentors is sometimes people have to borrow our belief in them when they don't have it for themselves, right? And, just getting people to realize, like, if you could take the first next step, what would it be? All right. And then how do you take the next step after that? And then just how to see that little bit of light, right? In the darkness. Like that's what I show people how to do. And then when we start slow like that and I titrate it, um, and then really get people to understand like you can control so much in your body just by paying attention to it without thinking about it because you don't have to name it. Sometimes there's no names for the things I feel in my body, but I know that when I get nervous, I feel it here
Hmm.
or here, or here, you know, and just honoring that. And then it goes away. It's crazy.
You know, um, you're successful. Talk to us. I mean, I asked you in the beginning, were you willing to, like, what part of your past do you reveal? Because it's a lot of high achieving women. Like, we would never,
Woo!
talk about what we've been through
Let
unless
me
it's
get my
like for
list.
a purpose to serve others. Like, how long do you have? I was like, well, I got 3 minutes. Give me the overview. So, because a lot of times people say, well, your past can't be as bad as mine. And bad is all relative. Does that make sense? So, and
Yeah,
what I've learned, Jen, over the past couple of years, perfectionism is trauma too. So
100. It's stemmed by yes, 100%.
yeah, we had these clients in 2020, 2021 that were had some interesting childhoods. I mean, everybody's been through something, right? And then in
Mhm.
2022, I think God was like, well, maybe y'all need a break. Let me give you these other women who had the two-parent household and, went to private school and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, you crazy too? And crazy is all relative. Crazy is when we're dragging around our stuff. And, the definition of insanity by Einstein is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's insanity. So crazy is we keep working harder thinking that it's going to make us happy. We keep getting degrees thinking that it's going to make us feel smart. We keep, collecting awards and then leave them in a box and not feeling anything. That's
That's where all mine
insanity.
are.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. So talk to us a little bit about your past, just to give women a snapshot of where you've been to where you are, where what you're talking about is possible because you've been through it.
Yeah. So, from the age of 3, that's as early as I can remember. And those memories, I mean, I grew up, I was molested by one of my older cousins. He was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time, from the ages of 3 to 8 or 9. And by the time I got the courage to say anything, it was swept under the rug. It wasn't acknowledged. He wasn't punished. I had so much shame from that. Like, it makes me very emotional because it's like, man, I wanna give myself and I have given myself my 3-year-old self a hug. Um, and, it started there and, grew up with an alcoholic father. And anyone who's grown up with an alcoholic parent, you are on guard 24/7 because you don't know what's gonna happen. Um, and I have one of the things I talk about is like that's one of the reasons I became successful because I became a really good body language, facial expression, like I could read a room. And so that's the good, right, that came out of that childhood. But the bad part about like that, alcoholic parent is that I became very hyper vigilant. I was always like looking out for fear, thinking something was going to happen. I didn't know what to do. So you take that. When I was 13, I was raped by my Taekwondo teacher. And again, swept under the rug. Wasn't arrested. My father took care of it, which I learned later in life what that was, but no therapy, no, "Jen, are you okay?" I blamed myself, like it was my fault a 35-year-old man took advantage of a 13-year-old, you know? And then every decision that I made from there was all about wanting to be loved, to be wanted. And so I made really bad decisions in my personal life, um, that all stemmed from just wanting to be loved as a kid. Became a perfectionist. That's, abandonment trauma. Like, I've had advanced schooling now on, all integrative trauma and all of those things. And it's like, man, And then fast forward, I mean, I have a blood clotting disorder. Um, I mean, I've had blood clots in my lungs twice, like where I should not be alive, especially this past one in 2020. They were the biggest clots they've ever seen in a person that's actually alive. Um, I've had cancer. And the other kind of crazy thing, and this all goes back to trauma, is have you ever noticed? I mean, a lot of people that have high trauma also have a lot of illness. Um, I was sick all the time. My body grew tumors, cysts. I got bronchitis, strep throat, pneumonia, like all the time. Um, and even as an adult, when I was really like doing the work on myself, I grew a tumor and I would get bloody noses. And that's how my body was reacting. And I'm like, okay, I am onto something because trauma, it's stored in your body. And now we know that that is true. Um, but, all these things are happening right in the background. And then people see this, Jennifer, they don't see all the other stuff because we feel like we have to hide it. But there's so much freedom and not hiding it anymore and really opening up to, okay, well, yeah, what happened to me doesn't define me, right? And teaching people, like, it just brings me joy teaching people how to get rid of this stuff out of their body, so they actually could be at peace. So,
Let me ask you this. One, thank you for sharing your story,
oh,
right?
you're
Because it
welcome.
takes courage for a high achieving woman, to be clear, to share anything and be vulnerable, because that takes courage. So I want to thank you for that, because it's going to set a lot of women free. Just acknowledging that somebody else had a SHITTY childhood, like, and you can still be successful. So let's talk about what was the I developed arthritis at 25. And what I learned from Florence Scovel Shin said, it's not a matter of asking what's the matter with you, but who's the matter with you. Unforgiveness is the most prolific cause of
Yeah,
disease.
it
She wrote
is.
that in 1946. And so I had a lot of rage around being harassed by some of my junior white male counterparts in the Coast Guard, and it was straight rage. You know, I'm a little aggressive, Jen. You know me, but not that
Oh.
long. I used to be really aggressive. And
You yeah,
yeah,
it's all good.
this is mild aggressiveness. This is just passion, but I used to be like
Mhm.
aggressive. And so, but I wanted to stomp a hole in these dudes. Like, and I'm being harassed, and I'm not weak. So I will fight you back. And so through the act of not being able to jump on these dudes physically, but being harassed, like all these women talk about microaggressions. I was in the military. Let's talk about aggression.
Yeah.
I developed arthritis, and I had a handicap sign for 6 months. Right. And after a year of crying and woe is me, why is this happening to me? And all these other kind of things. I was almost in a wheelchair. It was awful. Like I'm in pain 24 hours a day. One day I was like, you know what? This can't be my destiny. Right. Like I
Exactly.
know God did not create me for
Mhm.
this life. I have to figure this thing out. And I naturally cured myself within a year.
Mhm.
Um, so talk to us. Jim Rome calls it the day that turns your life around, the day that you be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. What was that day for you when you were like, you know what?
Mm.
I'm done.
There's a couple. There's 2. But I'll tell you about the first one that started to set me on the path. I was living in Dallas at the time, and I found myself on the side of the road. I fell out of my vehicle. I couldn't see. My heart was pounding 1,000 miles an hour, and I thought I was gonna die. And it was a panic attack. Yeah. And before it was like all of these things that happened to me my entire life, it's like they all just like came to me and my body just like freaking exploded. And I literally thought it was, it wasn't too far um, after my first bout with blood clots. So again, I was in the hospital for a long time. They're like, she's not going to make it. So all this stress, like everything just came together. And I was actually on my way to church and had this massive, I thought I was having a brain. I don't even know how I called 911. I don't even know how I called 911. And I was like, I, and a panic attack. And, a couple of hours later, I came home and I called my dad and I said, look, I had a panic attack and it was bad, really bad. And he's like, well, anxiety runs in our family. And I went, why didn't anyone tell me about this? Like, why does no one talk about this stuff? Like, I was so pissed. I was so pissed. Um, and and what I learned subsequently was that you can control panic attacks, because then I became deathly scared of having another one. I'm like, what if I have another one of these and I'm on the 635, or on 75, these are freeways in Dallas. And, I went to the doctor and I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, well, let me talk you through how to make them go away. And I'm like, you can just make them go away with me? And she's like, yes, your mind is very powerful. And it was a very unconventional method back then. And this is like 20 years ago. Um, and, you know, um, but it worked. And it was like the light went on going, okay, if I can talk myself out of a panic attack, because I did, I a couple weeks later, I started to have another one, but I felt of what I could feel my cortisol go up. I mean, I could feel it all in my body, what was about to happen. And I'm like, no, this is not happening. This is not real. Da 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 da. And then it would go away. And then I never had another one. And so I really started reading. I mean, I was always very interested in it, but really having cancer was the other like aha moment for me. It was, me really saying, okay, you need to figure out you've done all these things in your life, and yeah, that's great, but you're not happy. You're freaking miserable. You're overworked. You're Nothing ever makes you satisfied. Like we were talking about goal after goal after goal. I was a super high producer and did all these great things, but I was unhealthy, smoked too much, drank too much. I did all these things to numb myself. Um, and they never worked. Newsflash, right? So just learning to like using your story that you just said about, you held all this anger and all these feelings. And when you learn to release them and let them go, that's when you find peace. So you did, you used your body to heal your soul, you know? Um, and yeah, I mean, I would say that those are definitely my two, aha moments of like boom. And then now, especially when I decided, to really exit, the mortgage arena, putting myself back in school and just like total geek out, reading of and research and talking to people. And I mean, I've talked to so many people and I'm like, this is my passion now. Like I want to show other people like how to do it because we don't, like we said before, you don't have to suffer. I mean, can you imagine if you would have just been like, this is my life, like living in your pain? Can you imagine what you would be like today if you would have listened to that dialogue? Man.
I love your journey because I like to learn from people who've been through it. And even I remember when I used to go to a rheumatologist, like you can't explain the pain of arthritis. Like you're in pain 24/7. And you wake up in the morning, you're stiff because you've been laying there and so it's like you're waking up and everything is painful and it's stiff and you're like a brick. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna become a rheumatologist because I can understand when someone says on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain? And I'm like 12,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Like, you're
I'm
like,
going to
"I
get
know
a
that pain."
rheumatologist. Yeah, or I want a rheumatologist who has actually had arthritis because the compassion is different. And so when I look at Jen, the coaches who teach what we are, not the coaches who teach what they learn, because those are the ones that I give the side eye to, right? Like the women
Really?
who learn something, but I want the women who've been drugged through the mud and got their hair messed up, then that pick themselves up, figured it out, and now you're gonna teach me how to be, what you now stand on, and not necessarily something that you read, because what you read is going to be different and how it plays out in life individually. So
Yeah.
what is your advice for women who, because I talk to a lot of women who are having panic attacks or they're high functioning anxiety, which I don't believe is true, but that's just me. We ain't gonna get into that. I ain't gonna drag you into that mud. But it's like, what advice do you have for women who are having panic attacks? Like, what's one or two things that they can do to be able to tone that down and get back into their present moment?
Well, number one, know that you're not alone. You know, we think a lot of times when we're going through those things that no one would possibly understand what we're going through. And so we don't say anything. So the first step is talking about it. Whether that be to a coach or, of someone that you trust. Um, and then, learning the process. I mean, that's why that I'm dedicating the rest of my working years, to helping people um, overcome this and, learn how to pay attention to here versus all the stuff that goes on here. And when you master that, then you can teach it to other people. I mean, I see this world of healed people where we stop generational trauma, where we realize that, okay, yeah, just like I said before, it's that what happened to you doesn't have to define you. But just know that, I mean, you have to have the hope that you want to be healed. That's step two. Acknowledge it and, and get help, with someone who understands, the struggles that you're going through and that can walk you through it to get you to see that little light in the darkness, right? And just really pay attention to how your body feels, And it's weird when you start, I call it like living somatically. So a lot of times I'll just turn off my brain and I will do things that make me feel good. And, for me, it's art, hiking, things like that. And, pay attention to the situations that you're in. If it doesn't feel right in your body, then there's a reason it doesn't feel right in your body because it's probably not the right way to go. That's all I got, girl.
Well, so I
That's
did
my
arm day
advice.
today at the gym because I saw your arms yesterday on our accountability call. I was like, Jen got some guns, and I thought you was gonna come over here and try to outgun me. So I was trying to tighten them up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I put a shirt on just so you know.
Jim, I was like, oh my God, I got to get my shoulders in order to be on the phone with her. So when you said you do things to feel good, but you said art and hiking. A lot of women, I used to do it, right? When I was going through it, which is mostly all the time. That was my previous career. I turned to food. Cheesy,
Mm.
greasy. I mean, Chick-fil-A was right across the street. Texas Roadhouse, Cheddar's, and the Waffle House, all within this 5 mile radius. I was thicker than a Snicker. Like right before I ended up burning out, leaving my career, I ate everything. Like I craved, and I tell
Yeah.
people all the time,
Well,
stressed out
that's a
people.
maladaptive behavior. That's a behavior that you turn to,
Yeah.
to make yourself feel better. But really, if you would have paid attention to why you were feeling that way in the first place, you wouldn't have eaten yourself to a, what is it, thicker than a Snicker?
Yeah, thicker than a Snicker. So I bring this
I
around to
love that.
say,
I've been there too. I've been there too. I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Um, I mean, and that's what we'll always do is, until you regulate your nervous system,
Mhm.
you're going to keep on making bad choice after bad choice after bad choice and doing the wrong thing because you're not listening to your body. You're listening to your mind, like, oh, if I eat this greasy cheeseburger or this chocolate, it's going to make me feel better. Well, it might make you feel better for like 5 minutes, but then when you step on the scale, you're going to be like, oh crap, I'm a size 20 now, you know, or I'm hungover again, whatever. Again, I've been there, so I understand that.
Well, I think it's a part of, it's a conscious choice to choose differently. Stressed out people don't crave bananas and apples. You'd be like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. I can't wait to get an apple with some almond butter on it. You'd be like, man, I'm going across the street. Give me the number one crispy chicken sandwich by Chick-fil-A, breaded by the hands of Jesus, some fries, and a sweet tea with a splash lemonade in it, please. And Oreo milkshake. So talk to us about like that conscious shift, like when you're in the moment, right? Because when you're in the moment, you can choose. When you say, okay, I have to come into my mind and come into my body, you can choose hiking, art, or chips. What are you
Okay,
saying to yourself? Go ahead.
I'll put it a different way. So when I'm stressed, okay, so it's not like I don't get stressed out now, but when I'm stressed, I will get stressed and I will just sit for 5 minutes and I'll be like, okay, where am I feeling the stress in my body? And then I just honor it. And okay, where do I feel neutral? Where do I feel good in my body? And when you just take that 5 minutes, after you get really good at it, you're not going to go and reach the burger anymore because your stress will dissipate. You won't be stressed anymore, through different, I teach people all these different breathing techniques and, how to quickly, calm your nervous system within just a couple of seconds. And sometimes the things look goofy, but I know when I can get my husband to start doing that stuff, that what I'm doing works. Because it's usually the people that are closest to you that are the ones that are the least likely to actually follow your advice. At least that right? Does that ever happen to you? You're like, you could be the number one person in America, but your own mom will use someone else. You're like,
Yeah, Jesus wasn't a prophet in his own land.
exactly. So that always makes me laugh. But side note on that one. But yeah, it's when you learn, okay, just like I got, again, my heart beat, it was really fast a few minutes before we started. And I was like, and I'm like, okay, honored it. I said, I know you're beating because you're nervous. And then I went, and I know you're probably like, what? I'm like, I
No,
promise
I
you.
get it. I do it. I
Yeah,
do it too.
you won't have to you won't even have to make the decision of eating, a banana with almond butter or a cheeseburger because none of those things, you'll understand that none of those things will make you feel better. It's acknowledging and just being kind to yourself and learning, um, how to feel that feeling in your body and what the sensation is like, and acknowledging it.
Well, I wanted to ask, like, when I think about the reason why you stop, because it's a conscious interrupt. It is a conscious decision to like stop and say, I want joy. I choose peace. Like there is something driving that. Like you are, iconic and a global leader, and it's there's a different goal driving your decision to take responsibility for your peace, right? What is that when you're stopping and you're like, what are you doing it for? Is it your health because your life depends on it? Right? Is
No.
it your peace? Like, go ahead.
It
I'm listening.
it's, peace, and the only way it's just like the example that you gave a few seconds ago about, that you understand what it would feel like to have level 12 pain, right? So, once you get to a point of, like, when you notice that you're not bothered by things, like triggers that used to trigger you don't trigger you anymore, and the peace and the calm and the present moment that comes with that, you won't go back. And that's the only way that I can possibly think of how to explain it. So it affected my mental health, my physical health. It affected every part of me, and how I even, really just even approach I mean, anything, everything. It's changed my life in every single way. And then, I started working with my clients and integrating that into, you know, success coaching, right? But then I also make them do somatics. And at first, the ladies were like, I don't have time for this shit. Sorry, this stuff. Beep. Okay, that's true. Sorry.
No, I cuss too. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, good.
Okay,
And, they were very resistant. And I said, look, I need you to trust me and I need to walk you through this. And now, like, when I'm coaching someone or when I'm talking to someone, they're like, okay, can you lead me through it, please? Can we start with this? And what the cool thing is now they're teaching it to their kids. They're teaching it to their kids. And can you imagine what it would have been like growing up if you knew how to regulate your nervous system, if you knew how to combat stress, if you knew how to calm your anxiety down, how much better decisions you can make, right? How you don't react to things. I mean, it's life-changing stuff. And that's why I'm like so passionate about it. And I'm actually going to be um, one of my projects is um, teaching 3 classes a day at a cancer foundation starting on August the 5th. And I am leading cancer existing people that are going through treatment and people that are in remission through educating them in somatic experiencing and um, and telling them, okay, this is why, because the data shows a significant increase in resilience, and that's the key to peace. So when you can bounce back from something, you're gonna have pain in your life. There's no getting around having pain, right? But if you can increase your window of tolerance for resilience on what bothers you and what doesn't, can you imagine what that would be like? You know, that's what I want to show people. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Oh, okay. I think there's a lag. We have a delay. Can
Oh,
you hear me? Okay, great.
okay.
We're gonna make it work. Okay. My janky internet. I don't know. I'm gonna have to take the box today. You'd be like, yo, get this box, trash it. Okay. What are some of the ways that people can work with you? Like, what are some of the services that you offer? We heard coaching, we heard speaking, I heard training. Like, so give us the menu. Give us the menu of what you
The
got,
menu
Jen.
is as follows. Um, well, first and foremost, I do group coaching. And so my website is thehighlevellife.com. So it's like just spelled out, the high level life, no hyphens or anything.com. And group coaching sessions. I also have one-on-one if someone just wants it to be just, her and I. I also have developed a curriculum to go into schools, to go into, I just sent out a proposal to police stations, because first responders. I mean, literally, the information that I have and the way that I teach it is applicable to anybody. So corporations with large, with wellness programs, I could give anything from a 1 hour talk to a 3-day seminar. It just really depends on what they want. I think that it is most effective if someone has me come to their company or their foundation or organization and has me speak about it in person, because I think that's more effective. Um, and my speaking website is thejenguidry.com. So it's THEJENGUIDRY.com. And if you would like to, hear more about what we can do or how we can help you, just visit one of those websites. I mean, they all link to each other, so I'm really easy to find, and I would be honored to serve. I look at this as not Uh, it's service. It's my passion and it's my purpose.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about yesterday, I don't know if you heard me when I said first responders,
Mhm.
because first responders, being in the Coast Guard, we were first, like when the ish is the fan, that's when we get excited. Like that's when we
Yeah,
like it's on. But
yeah,
to live in a hyper state of awareness and workaholicism is what I call it, because we're always on.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if we're off, we're actually waiting for it to be on again. So
yeah,
there are no periods of rest. But when I think about, you talked about a police department, fire departments, like, because when the fire alarm goes off, the stress levels and the stress that we carry. And I can't remember who I was talking. I think it was a massage therapist that was talking about how they only work with first responders because our stress is like immense. And so
yeah,
having first responders be able to breathe in the chaos, right?
yeah.
In the disagreements, and in the, in the crisis, it actually makes you more effective mentally because you can make better decisions if you're actually in
Yes,
your body.
better decision. Your family life is better. I mean, everything is better. It trickles down to every part of your life when you learn how to do it, and that's why I'm like, "Man, everyone needs to hear this." And right now, it's like, yeah, you can find stuff on the internet, but it's different when I teach it because I go into the
Jen said you
you
can
know
find stuff, but you can find me too.
exactly. Oh,
DJ
that more thing.
Guidry.
Yeah.
So before we close out, Jen, what's one piece of advice do you have for men and women? But yeah, I work with women, but I talk to a lot of women who are just hopeless. They get on my nerves. Um, but you're nicer, but they get on my nerves because I just be like, how do you have no hope? Right? Like, how can you have everything? But I know how it feels and feel like you have nothing. Or when I look at women who have everything and they feel like they have nothing is one thing, but they feel like they're nobody. That's when, you know, I just be looking at them like, what are you talking about? Like, I can read your LinkedIn profile and like, I know that you're great, but I also know that there's something that they're trying to cover up. And at a certain point is like, you have to roll back the stone and let Lazarus come forth. I like to quote scripture too, Jen, because, I'm a little special, but it's like at a certain point, the stuff has to heal. But what is your advice to women today who feel like they're hopeless and that they're stuck and that they have to die this way?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I I would say, it's hard when you don't have hope because hope keeps you alive, right? So I feel like when someone feels that way, something happened to them, right? That trauma is stored in their body. And my word to you is that there is hope. There is hope. You are not alone. And just when you can borrow some of my hope if you need it. Okay. But there is a way um, to get out of that trap. Um, and you don't, it's like you need to heal, but you don't know how. It's so hard to take that first step. It is. But that first step is, borrow some of my hope. Call me. Let me help. Let me walk you through it. Um, and we can take it from there. But you don't have to live this way. You don't have to keep on suffering. And no matter what happened to you, no matter what you've gone through, you're not alone. And people respond. I mean, my brother and I grew up same household, right? He responded one way to how we grew up, and I responded a different way. And just because something is minimal to me doesn't mean it's going to be minimal to you. And that is really comes from being very trauma informed now and just realizing like because it's something that I struggle with too. I'm like, how can you have no hope? Then I'm like, oh yeah, now I understand. And it's hard. And that's why like I'm completely agreeing with you. That's hard to deal with, especially when you're so full of hope. Um, but some people just are not as strong, and they need to borrow some of ours. And that's what I want to be here for.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, Jen. Y'all look her up,
Thank you for having me.
thejenguidry.com. I've enjoyed our conversation. And, go ahead, like and subscribe to this podcast. It's amazing because we
Yes,
like to win.
it is. Christy, you are amazing. You are one of the, I tell you this and I'm going to say it live. This is one amazing, strong, beautiful woman, inside and out. I'm proud to know you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great day and a great life. And I just, I hope that y'all Jen dropped so many gems, but I really hope that she gave you hope that your life can be different. And so I want y'all to give yourselves permission, give yourself permission to know that your life can change and that your life can be completely different, but you have to choose that for yourself and then do something about it. Take care, y'all.